At Christmas dinner my dad barked, "We gave you enough, now it's time you leave. We're tired of you." Everyone laughed. The next morning I packed my bag and said, "Fine. Then you can also live without my paycheck." My mom turned pale. My dad shouted my name, but I was already gone. I'll never forget the exact moment my dad barked those words at me across the dinner table. It was Christmas. My 1-year-old was on my lap, smearing mashed potatoes into her onesie while I tried to stop her without making a mess on the tablecloth. Everyone else, my parents, my brother Ethan, his wife Courtney, and their 2 twins, were already on their second glass of wine and deep into fake laughter mode. It felt like I was watching a sitcom with the laugh track cranked up too high, only I wasn't part of the script. They were retelling the story of their family trip to Myrtle Beach last summer. The one I wasn't invited to. They laughed about Ethan's sunburn, Courtney's margarita meltdown, and how the twins buried my dad's sandals in the sand. I just nodded and smiled through my forkful of dry turkey, pretending it didn't sting that nobody had even mentioned the trip to me until after they were already back. That's when my dad leaned back in his chair and said it. "We gave you enough, now it's time you leave. We're tired of you." At first I honestly thought I misheard him. But then my brother laughed like he'd been waiting for that punchline all night. Courtney nearly choked on her wine. My mom just rolled her eyes like this was all harmless fun. Like I was in on the joke. I sat there holding a baby spoon, blinking. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. The damage was done. The truth is that Christmas dinner wasn't just another insult. It was the final blow after a year of swallowing my pride. After my husband left, I came back home with my newborn, thinking it was temporary. I thought I'd get a few months of stability, some support, some space to breathe and get my bearings. Instead, I got a list of unspoken rules and constant reminders that I didn't belong. They never came out and said it directly, not until Christmas, but I knew. Every time I saw the stack of their bills on the counter with my name penciled in as helpful, every time my mom made a passive comment about how she wished she had more time for herself instead of babysitting, and every time my dad asked me to pitch in just this once again and again, I knew exactly where I stood. I worked full-time as an admin for a medical billing office. Nothing glamorous, but it paid. And instead of saving for my daughter's future, I was covering their groceries, their new fridge, my dad's subscription car wash. I even paid for their internet 1 month because they said it was unfair that I used it for work and didn't chip in. I gave them everything I had. Time, energy, money. And in return I was a burden. A joke at dinner. That night, after the dishes were done and everyone had gone to bed, I stood in the kitchen holding a leftover piece of pie I didn't even want. I just stared at it while my daughter slept upstairs, thinking about what I'd just heard. "We're tired of you." The next morning I didn't wait for anyone to wake up. I packed our things quietly. I didn't even take everything. Just the essentials. Clothes for me, onesies and diapers for my baby, her blanket, a few bottles, and the cheap umbrella stroller we got from Walmart. I left behind her Christmas toys still scattered under the tree. I didn't care. My mom was in her bathrobe, sipping coffee when I walked through the kitchen. "Where are you going? Is it fine? You're tired of me? Then you can also live without my paycheck." Her face froze. She didn't say anything. My dad came storming out of the hallway shouting my name. But I didn't turn around. I opened the door, carried my baby outside and left. It was 33 degrees and raining. I didn't even have a clear plan yet. I had some money saved, not much, and a contact at work who mentioned a landlord in Springfield who rented to single moms. I didn't know if I could make it, but I knew I had to try. Because going back inside that house wasn't an option anymore. And they knew it too. I drove for 2 hours without a real destination. My daughter was asleep in the back seat, still in her Christmas pajamas, and the only thing I could hear was the sound of the rain smacking the windshield. I kept thinking about how quiet the house had been when I left. No one ran after me. No one asked me to stay. No apology. Nothing. I pulled into a gas station just outside Springfield and parked behind the building where nobody would see us. I turned off the car, leaned my seat back and just sat there in the cold. My bank account had $712 in it. That was it. Rent, gas, food, diapers. It all had to come from that. I cried for 5 minutes. Then I stopped. There wasn't time for that. I texted Rachel, the girl from work who had once told me her cousin owned a few rental units near downtown Springfield. It was the day after Christmas, so I didn't expect a reply, but she got back to me in less than 10 minutes. Her cousin had a 1-bedroom that just opened up. He hadn't even listed it yet. $575 a month. No deposit if I paid the first 2 months up front. It wasn't ideal. 1-bedroom upstairs unit, no washer and dryer, but it was available immediately. I said yes without even seeing it. We were in by nightfall. It was small and smelled like paint, but it was ours. I slept on the floor that first night with my daughter curled up beside me under a blanket I had in the trunk. I hadn't brought any of her toys, so I gave her an empty water bottle to play with. She giggled like it was the best gift she'd ever received. The next morning, I went out and bought a $29 air mattress and 2 paper plates. That was all I could afford. I showed up to work that week wearing the same clothes twice and just said I was doing laundry at a friend's place. Nobody asked questions. I smiled more than usual just to keep anyone from guessing. Then the text started. First from my mom. "You can't just leave like that." Then my dad. "You need to grow up and face your responsibilities." They acted like I had done something cruel. Like they were the ones who had been left out in the cold. Then came the guilt trip. "We miss our granddaughter. Why would you take her away from us?" Funny how they never said they missed me. I made the mistake of replying once. I said they never supported me. That they mocked me in front of my child. That they made me feel like a beggar in my own home. My dad texted back. "Don't be dramatic. It was a joke." I blocked his number. My mom kept texting every few days, asking if I needed anything, if I wanted to come by and talk. She even showed up at my work one day, which sent me into a full panic. I told the receptionist to tell her I was in a meeting and hid in the supply closet until she left. I started regretting ever giving them my new address. At first I thought maybe they'd see that I was serious, that I was done being their backup plan. But now it just felt like I had given them a way to find me again. I stopped checking my mailbox. I lived half in fear that one of them would show up at my door with some excuse about visiting the baby. I never let my daughter out of my sight. And then one afternoon at the grocery store, everything changed. I was standing in line with a cart full of clearance meat and store-brand formula when a guy behind me asked if I'd dropped something. I turned around and saw him holding up a pacifier. It wasn't mine. But that's how it started. I didn't know it yet, but that man would be the person who changed everything. I was barely holding it together that day at the store. I'd worked a half shift, my daughter had soaked through her last diaper, and I was buying food with whatever scraps I had left after rent. I was calculating total cost in my head while trying to distract her with an empty snack wrapper, hoping I wouldn't have to put anything back. Then a man behind me said, "Hey, I think this fell from your cart." He held up a pacifier. It wasn't ours, but I didn't correct him. I just smiled and took it. He smiled back and asked how old she was. I told him. He said something about his niece doing the same thing when she was that age, throwing things just to watch someone pick them up. I nodded politely. Small talk. But not creepy. It's normal. I didn't realize until I got to the register that he was still standing nearby. When the total popped up and I reached for my debit card, the cashier said it was already covered. I just stared at her. The guy, Ryan, I'd later learn, nodded from behind and said "Merry Christmas." And then he left. Just walked out like it was nothing. I ran after him to give the money back, but he was already in his car, waving off my attempt. I remembered his face. I didn't expect to see him again, but 2 weeks later I ran into him in the same store. This time I said something first. He laughed, said I looked less stressed, and I told him that was debatable. We ended up talking for almost an hour in the parking lot while my daughter napped in her car seat. I hadn't had a real conversation with a grown adult in weeks that didn't involve passive insults or fake pity. He asked if I wanted to get coffee sometime, just me and the baby, nothing formal. I said yes, not really expecting anything to come of it. But we did. And then we did again. He was the first man in a long time who didn't look at me like I was broken or a cautionary tale. He listened. He remembered things I didn't even realize I'd told him. Like how I hated loud clocks. Or how I used to paint back before life got in the way. He never asked about my ex or why I lived in a shoebox apartment with a baby. He waited for me to offer that information, and when I finally did, he didn't flinch. After about a month, I let him meet my daughter properly. He brought a stuffed giraffe and a bag of those baby puffs she loved. She was obsessed with him immediately. He didn't push himself into our lives. He just slowly fit himself into the gaps that had been hollow for so long. And then one Thursday it happened. I came home from work and saw my parents' car parked in front of my building. I felt like I was going to throw up. My mom came rushing up, arms wide like nothing had happened. My dad hung back, arms crossed, eyes scanning the place like it wasn't good enough. They hadn't been in contact for weeks. Not since I blocked my dad and ignored most of my mom's texts. I guess they'd finally decided to fix things. She said she missed us. She said they were just joking that night. That I overreacted. I didn't say much. I just told them they needed to leave. My dad got mad. Started raising his voice. My mom shifted her tone. Suddenly I was being disrespectful and making things difficult. My daughter started crying in my arms. Then Ryan's car pulled in. He got out, took one look at the scene and walked right over. He asked if everything was okay. I barely managed to say no. Then he turned to my parents and said exactly what I couldn't. "She doesn't want to talk to you. You need to go." My dad puffed up like he was about to start something. Ryan didn't even flinch. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't touch him. He just stood there, calm, steady, and unmovable. My dad looked at him like he didn't know what to do with that kind of energy. And for the first time in my life, he backed down. They got in their car and left. That night, after I got my daughter to sleep, Ryan sat on the floor next to me and told me something that changed everything. He wasn't just some guy with a nice smile and decent manners. He co-founded a tech company, quietly, years ago, and then sold part of it. He had money, the kind that makes your brain go blank for a second. He wasn't flashy. He lived simply. He didn't even own a fancy car. He said he'd been burned before, people using him, pretending to care. So he stopped telling people. I sat there speechless, still trying to figure out if this was real. He said he wanted to help me and my daughter, not in a pity way but because he cared. Because he saw something in us worth protecting. He said he had a place in Miami. That he was moving there part-time for work anyway. That we could come with him if I wanted. No pressure. No strings. Just an offer. A clean start. I asked him to give me time. I needed to think. To breathe. He said okay. And then, without telling me, he went to my parents' house. He handed them an envelope with $10,000 in it. No explanation beyond this. Don't contact her again. He's done with you. This should make it easier. They called me, of course. Left voicemails. Sent emails. Tried to twist it. Saying I'd sent a man to threaten them. That I was being manipulated. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because for the first time in my life, someone stood up for me and meant it. After Ryan gave them that envelope, things went quiet. My mom stopped texting. My dad didn't leave any more voicemails. It was almost eerie how fast they backed off, like they'd finally realized they lost control. I thought maybe it was over. That I could finally focus on my daughter, on work, on the quiet but growing thing I had with Ryan. Then the letter came. Not from them but from their lawyer. It showed up in my mailbox one Monday morning. A thick manila envelope with my name spelled in full, like they were trying to make it look official. I opened it on the kitchen floor while my daughter played with plastic measuring cups. Inside was a letter claiming I owed them money. $9,300. They said it was repayment for back rent, food and utilities from the time I lived in their house. That since I left abruptly, they were formally requesting restitution. There were even fake itemized charges. One was $140 for emotional stress therapy my mom claimed she needed after I moved out. First I laughed. Thought it was a joke. Then I realized they were serious. They wanted to take me to small claims court. I showed Ryan, embarrassed and shaking. I felt like I'd just fallen into a trap. Like maybe I shouldn't have left the way I did, like maybe I'd messed something up legally. He read the whole thing calmly. Then he asked me one question. Do you want me to make it go away? I told him I didn't want him to clean up my messes. He said this wasn't a mess. This was harassment. He'd seen it before. Families who get addicted to controlling someone and can't handle when that grip is broken. He made one phone call to his attorney. That was all it took. Within 2 days, a formal response was sent. It included documentation of the money I had already given them, screenshots of their texts, and a very polite warning about filing frivolous lawsuits. They dropped everything. But what stuck with me most wasn't how fast Ryan handled it. It was that he didn't treat me like I owed him anything for it. He didn't act like a savior. He just said you shouldn't have to carry all this on your own. He started spending more time at the apartment. Not in a rushed sleepover kind of way. He'd bring dinner after work, help me clean up, watch cartoons with my daughter while I folded laundry. He made us feel like a family without saying it out loud. Then one night he came over with a small box. I thought it was jewelry. Or maybe a key to something. But when I opened it there were flight tickets. One for me. One for my daughter. And a note that just said, January 3rd. Miami. Come see. No pressure. No promises. Just sunshine. I stared at him. He smiled and said just a visit. A week. Get out of this cold. See what life could look like. I didn't know how to feel. I hadn't taken a trip in years. I hadn't even left Springfield since I moved out of my parents' house. Part of me was terrified. But another part, the part that had been buried under stress and fear, lit up. We went. The place in Miami wasn't a condo. It wasn't even a house. It was a 2-story villa tucked behind a wall of palms with a pool, a garden, and a guest house out back. My daughter took off running the second we got inside, giggling through the hallways like she already knew it was hers. We stayed for 5 days. Ryan didn't push. He let me explore. He showed me the beach he loved, the cafe he wanted to work from, the empty nursery he'd quietly decorated just in case. I told him I wasn't ready to move. Not yet. He said okay. He didn't ask again. But something unexpected happened the night before we flew home. As I was tucking my daughter into bed, I looked at the monitor screen Ryan had set up in the guest room. There was movement. Not in her room. Outside. Near the front gate. Ryan checked the cameras. Someone had tried to get in. The figure was blurry, hood up, back turned, but the way they lingered, it wasn't random. They were testing the lock. Ryan pressed a button and an alarm sounded outside. The person bolted. He reported it to security the next morning. They said it was probably a fluke. But when we landed back in Springfield, there was a package at my apartment door. No return label. Inside was one of my daughter's old stuffed animals. One I hadn't seen since we lived at my parents' house. The stuffed fox was sitting right at the top, staring up at me from the box like it had never left. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just froze in the hallway, one hand still holding my keys, the other gripping the edge of the box. I knew that fox. It had a rip in the seam of its ear that I'd sewn up one night after my daughter chewed through it during teething. I'd looked everywhere for it back in January, tore the apartment apart twice, even checked under the car seats. It was gone. I figured it got tossed during laundry or left at the park. But now here it was, washed, folded into a box with no return address. I stood there for a long time. My daughter tugged at my sleeve asking if she could have it back. I said no. I didn't even want her to touch it. Something about it made my skin crawl. I placed the box on the kitchen table and texted Ryan a photo. He called immediately. I told him everything. About the fox. About how it had been gone since the move. About how I was sure it came from my parents' house. No one else would have had it. No one else would have even known it was missing. Ryan didn't ask dumb questions. He just said, "You're not staying there another night." He picked us up within 30 minutes. That night he drove us to a friend's place, someone he trusted, and set us up in their guest room. Then he spent half the night on the phone with a private security company. I found out later that he had cameras installed around my apartment the very next day just in case someone came back. But that wasn't all. He also had someone run a license plate check. Because when we looked through the camera footage from the week before, we caught something I hadn't noticed. The car. The same silver sedan that used to park on the curb outside my parents' house. It had passed my apartment 3 times in one afternoon and slowed down each time. Ryan didn't wait around for answers. He made a decision. He told me we were done with Springfield. Not in a dramatic way. Not some hero sweep. He just looked at me and said, "It's time. We don't need to keep surviving here. We can live somewhere else, really live." I didn't argue. I was done being scared to go outside. Done checking my peephole 5 times before I opened the door. Done wondering if my parents were stalking me just to see how far I'd fallen without their help. But Ryan didn't just offer me an out. He gave me a choice. He told me we could move to Miami. He had the place, it was ready, the guest room was mine, and the nursery already had new toys and a name plaque he never even showed me before. Or, if I wasn't ready to be that close, he'd help me find another city, another apartment, another way. Just say the word. I chose Miami. But only if we did it quietly. Ryan handled everything. He had movers pack my apartment while I took my daughter out of daycare without notice. I didn't tell anyone at work I was leaving. I let them believe I quit on a whim. Maybe they'd think I broke down. Maybe they'd say I was crazy. Let them. We left on a Tuesday. My daughter didn't understand, but she knew we were going on a plane and that she got to bring her fox. She hugged it tight like it had never disappeared, like it hadn't been used to send a message I still couldn't wrap my head around. Before we boarded the flight, Ryan told me there was one more stop he wanted to make, and that I didn't need to be there for it. I told him I wasn't hiding anymore. So I went with him. We pulled into my parents' street and parked just far enough not to be seen from their front window. Ryan got out alone. I stayed in the car, heart pounding, watching my daughter sleep in her car seat as if nothing was happening. He walked up, knocked once, and my dad answered. Ryan handed him an envelope and didn't wait for small talk. He said what he needed to say. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw my father's expression change as he read the letter inside. Ryan came back to the car, sat down, and drove away without saying a word. I asked him what it said. He told me, "This is the second and final check. You've been paid to disappear from her life. Stay gone. If she sees you again, if you contact her again, I won't be this polite next time." That was it. We landed in Miami that night. The house was even more beautiful than I remembered. Bright, open, filled with little signs that he'd been preparing for us even when I wasn't ready. Baby-proofed cabinets, a swing set in the yard, kids' movies downloaded on every screen. He gave me my own room. My daughter got hers. He didn't ask for anything. Just made space for us like he'd been doing since day one. And for the first time in over a year I felt safe. Not lucky. Not rescued. Safe. Like maybe I wasn't meant to survive my life. Maybe I was meant to start a new one. The big final update. It's been 6 months since we left Springfield. 6 months since I walked away from that cold, cramped apartment, from the mailbox I used to dread checking, from the parents who only saw me as a bank account with baggage. I kept telling myself I'd post an update, but every time I sat down to write something I felt like I was tempting fate. Like maybe if I said how good things were getting I'd jinx it. But here I am. We live in Miami now, in our home. Not a guest room. Not alone. Ryan added me to the deed without saying a word about it. I found out when a letter came in the mail with both our names on it. I confronted him thinking it was some kind of mistake and he just shrugged and said, "This is your home too. I'm not going anywhere. Neither are you." I didn't say anything. I just cried for a while and then took my daughter out to the pool like it was any other Tuesday. She's thriving. I enrolled her in a small daycare with teachers who know her name, who treat her like she's more than just another noisy toddler. She started sleeping through the night again. The first time I heard silence at 3 a.m. I sat up in a panic, convinced something was wrong. Nothing was wrong. She was just safe. I got a job too, part-time remote helping with admin work for one of Ryan's friends' companies. It's flexible. It pays well. But more than that, it doesn't make me feel like I'm working just to keep my head above water. And Ryan? He's the same. Which is what amazes me the most. He didn't change when we moved in. He didn't shift into some different version of himself once he had me. He still makes coffee every morning. Still brings home tiny things he thinks I'll like. Still plays with my daughter for an hour before dinner no matter how tired he is. Still defends me without making me feel weak. We're not married. He hasn't proposed. And I'm not rushing anything. We talked about it. We both agreed we'd know when it's right. No pressure. No show. Just real quiet life together. And my parents? They haven't contacted me since the envelope. Not once. No letters. No phone calls. Nothing from my brother or his wife either. I blocked them all. Deleted the old email. Changed everything. I never told them we left the state. But I don't think I had to. They got the message. Ryan made sure of it. Sometimes I wonder if they think about me. About their granddaughter. If they regret what they did. The mockery, the entitlement, that Christmas dinner where they laughed as my dad told me they were done with me. But I don't spend too long on that thought. Because I'm not angry anymore. Not sad either. Just free. And you know what? For the first time in my adult life, 2024 feels like mine. Not a storm to survive. Not a disaster to clean up. A beginning. We went to the beach last weekend. My daughter ran straight for the waves in her little polka dot swimsuit, giggling like the world would never let her down. Ryan followed her, let her bury his feet in sand. I sat on a towel just watching, letting the sun hit my face without flinching. And I realized something. The version of me that lived in that house, the one who begged her parents for kindness and gave them her last paycheck just to avoid their bitterness, she's gone. She left that Christmas morning and never came back. And in her place, there's a woman who finally knows what peace feels like. And she's not giving it up for anything.